Hey, so we're back.
Welcome back.
Interesting first week. I think we have a lot to talk about. Yeah, where do you even
Yeah.
start on this one? What's interesting about doing a recap on Pick'em versus all of college football is that there's a lot to say about a lot of games, but this one keeps it tight, I think. And then we don't have to like dissect things like Florida and Alabama, although that one's very tempting.
Also, I think the overall theme for me is we still don't know. We
No.
still don't know a lot about people. And kind
Yep.
of what we talked about in the last videos, it takes a good 3, 4 weeks to get to that point, I think. So,
Well, it's preseason for a reason in the sense that they're all like, okay, like half the teams play cupcake teams, and then the other half like try to win a Super Bowl apparently in their first game. And I was like, I don't understand what. Anyway, but I think you're right. And I think what's hard is it's apples and oranges. There's so many people comparing like Utah being like, oh, they beat UCLA. They're probably going to be the top in the Big 12, and you're like, okay. I mean, they played
right.
UCLA, so.
Yeah. How we don't know how
And we
bad
don't know how
UCLA is. We
maybe
don't
they're
know.
great, maybe they're not
Yeah.
great, and but anyway, so I guess we can kind of go down the list.
We can just start with that game since you mentioned Utah
Yeah.
UCLA. Um, and I tried to watch a little of most games. That one I watched a little. I was impressed with the speed of Utah's quarterback.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. But I was also just like, people are going to adjust to that. People are going to know how to. So it's like, okay, this is the first time, people are really seeing him. I know he played at New Mexico State in that offense, but it's anyway. But Utah's defense looked good. But I don't know how good or bad UCLA is. So
Yeah.
I just don't know yet.
I think the one thing it confirmed for me is Utah's a contender. I
Yeah.
think for me, one of the biggest fears of this season with BYU season tickets is that we're going going to face BYU or Utah. And so at least that will be a game. And I always get a little nervous when it doesn't look super easy because
Yeah.
rivalry games can go either way. But I think there's what and this is again my bias coming out. What's been interesting is, listening to Pat McAfee on College Game Day when he was just like college season rankings, and even the week after it's rat poison to
Yeah.
teams that actually buy into it and to teams that aren't on it, aren't involved. It gives them a lot of impetus to just go kill these other
Yeah.
teams. And so,
Right.
to be honest, BYU's getting a lot of praise, and I just, be concerned about the rat poison a little bit on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. BYU's win. It's hopefully they put it in perspective with like, hey, the team you just beat hasn't scored in the first 2 games. So let's not anyway. But yeah, Utah, UCLA, Utah's defense still looked good. But again, it's kind of like, okay, cool. But how bad's UCLA? How good's actually Utah? I don't know. But it was a good game for Utah. I mean,
Solid
they
win for
went,
them. Hmm.
yeah, very good. I'll just go down my list. I just
Yeah.
pulled up my picks, but actually, maybe we'll end with the Texas Ohio State one.
Yeah.
Uh, actually, Cal Oregon State. I did not watch anything of that one, but it looks like Cal handled Oregon State fairly easily, which
Yeah. Which it was
I
interesting.
mean, yeah,
I tuned in for a second and I didn't watch too much of that game, but the second I tuned in, Oregon State was trying to make a little bit of a comeback, and so I didn't get to see Cal too much in action. But I mean, that was a significant win.
yeah,
So I mean, it just makes me feel bad for whatever's left of the Pac-12.
yeah.
They're just not getting any love and any money or probably any
That,
recruits at this point. So yeah.
that's exactly what I thought too. Is like, oh, well, Oregon State's fighting for their lives, to keep the Pac-12 alive, and Cal still, they have the money and they're at least in the ACC. So,
Yeah.
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 Um,
I
even though I
did
did
pick
pick the Beavers.
I
Yeah,
did pick the Oregon State. Yeah, I picked the Oregon State. I don't know, where did you put him? I put him at a 5, which was pretty
too.
optimistic of me, but
Yeah, I put them pretty low, but um, anyway, probably should have. In hindsight, it's like, oh, of course Cal would win that. Like, but I didn't. How are you supposed to know?
who knows?
Georgia Southern Fresno State did not watch that, but I remember what we talked about, both with talking about how Fresno State kind of put up a fight with Kansas and they looked decent. And I think that came through. They won 42-14 over Georgia Southern.
Yeah,
So,
I put Georgia Southern because the odds
uh-oh.
makers had them. Well, they had them winning, and I was like, okay, let's just see how correct they are. Wow, where they're off. But actually, what this is also doing for me is, I mean, not necessarily that Georgia Southern's a great team, but it's making look Kansas look a little bit better. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the Big 12 is all about this year. But I'm glad to see Fresno State won, even though I chose Georgia Southern because that was a bit of a gamble. I put them at a 4. Again, I picked a lot of upsets this week because
You
I'm like,
did.
if you're gonna gamble on upsets, this is the week to do it.
That's true.
Um,
Yeah,
chose the wrong ones, that's all. So
that's true. Notre Dame, Miami are, we called it the All Hype Bowl.
yeah,
Turned
that's
out to be a good game.
good game.
Um,
Really good game.
Miami won, which, okay, that's fine, but I'm still in the same boat. It's like Notre Dame could not stop Miami's defensive line, like at the end of the game, and for nothing. And I'm like, okay, is Miami's line that good, or is Notre Dame's line that bad? Like, what is
This
it?
was it was hard because it was a bit of the Clash of the Titans for me, because it looked significantly for most of the game like Miami was like the better team by far. Notre Dame came like had a comeback in the last little bit, but I was like, when are they going to get it together? And I have to give props to Carson Beck on this one because he just looks happier. And I watched his end of the game like emotional conversation with one of the media and he's just so he was I have to I'm buying in a little bit to the hype of him because I'm just like apparently with the more he talks the more I'm like okay so he wasn't happy at Georgia apparently what he says he's been saying that like I didn't really get to control the offense I didn't get to do what I wanted to do and what I'm best at and I was like that's interesting that you say that at first when I heard that I was like all right so you're saying that Georgia doesn't have a good offensive line coach or something you know what I mean like I don't know offensive coordinator, but I was like, I don't know. Like he just looks happier. He looks like he's in a better place. I think Miami might do some damage this year. I actually think that they'll probably play in, well, I don't know. The ACC is a little bit more stacked this year than I thought. Florida State and Clemson as well. So, uh,
Yeah.
what's nice about ACC and the Big 12 is I feel like they have some real contenders to be dealt with.
There's
So,
multiple instead of the same old. Well, there are ACC's kind of same old, I guess, but there's more at
yeah.
least than
Well, Florida State
SEC
last
and
year was 2 and what, 10 or something. So like they did
yeah,
horribly.
they hopefully. Well, that was probably an anomaly, but yeah, that was rough. But I will say there are a couple. The little I watched of the game, there were two really bad intentional grounding
Oh my
decisions on the
gosh.
quarterback. The
Yeah.
first one was horrible. Like he just threw it. And it's like what? And then the second one, he was going down and he was just trying to get rid of it. Still bad, but I'm like, I get that one a little bit more. You're trying to make something happen. But I'm just like, and
Like
then
hold on to it.
and there's a runoff of the clock. I'm like, dude, like anyway. So the situational awareness, but that's that's what Miami's line was doing. Like
Well, and
he,
also, oh, that's what Carson Beck did? I'm sorry. I thought
no,
you were
no,
talking
no,
about
the
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame
Yeah, that's what I was
quarterback
saying. I was
was
like, Notre Dame.
doing.
Well, you can definitely
Yeah,
tell that he was a first-time starter, and then Carson Beck had definitely a lot of maturity for what he was doing.
yeah.
But I also think that the play of the game was that one-handed catch in the end zone. That was, I mean, when I saw that, I audibly was like, "Oh my gosh, that was so cool!" Um,
Yeah,
and play of not only the game, maybe the week. So yeah,
yeah. Um, yeah. So we'll see
we'll
what
see.
becomes of
Yeah.
them. They both look good, but Notre Dame probably it was a 6 versus 10, so no one's dropping. If anything, they're just going to switch spots or
Yeah, and
something,
did you
and
see
that's it.
that ESPN put out a list yesterday? And
Uh-uh.
so this was, I think, a list based on like computers or the numbers or whatever. Everybody's fighting with it today, but Texas is still at one. And
Ah.
so they said that they lost to a good team. I'm just like, are you
Oh
kidding?
my goodness, a good loss. That was the whole problem of the college football playoff last year. Was like, what's a good loss? What's a good loss? What? No, a loss is a loss. Like
Well,
you shouldn't be.
Lockdown
Uh,
10, Big 12 was like, all right, now I want to go back to the BCS playoffs.
seriously.
Like, I
Oh,
don't know. So yeah, we'll have to see.
ridiculous.
But and it had BYU as the top, I think, Big 12 contender, and a couple it was Utah below. But I was like, you can't buy into any of that. It's just still rat
Yeah.
poison. Who knows what?
It's
Yeah.
still, I mean, BYU won 69-0, but again, it was ridiculous. Video game stats. Like, it's
Yeah.
not real.
Yeah. I was surprised Kalani Sitake let him run him out that high, but
Well, I will say he at least none of the starters played in the second half, so it was the second and third strings doing it. And it's kind of like
which I'm like,
at
even our
that point,
third
what do
string
you
is beating
do?
you? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. What did we do? Yeah. Anyway, okay.
All right. LSU Clemson. This game
Wow.
was on at the same time as the BYU game,
Yeah.
so I didn't watch much of it actually. But again, I think this one they're just going to flop. Clemson.
Yeah.
Well, it's the whole a good loss thing, which is super annoying. Um, I don't know. I think the mystique of Clemson is kind of like you have good players, but it's been a few years since you've really like
Like
lived
heavy,
up
like
to
the top dog
expectations,
status.
I
Yeah.
think.
Well, and they haven't really made the playoffs like substantially in a while. Like they might have
Recent.
made it, but they didn't like make a deep run. And so,
Yeah.
but LSU, I'm like, this is the one where I'm like, the hype is kind of paying off with them. I
Hmm.
have to say, like, so I rewatched the game yesterday, but and I didn't, I was running errands and all that stuff. Oh, good, mom's calling. Um, but I think one of the things that's interesting about this one is, I do think from what I've heard of all the people commenting is that, their quarterback is the real deal. And this one was, substantially in LSU's favor, despite even the score.
Kind
And
of the close score. Yeah.
they said it was a close score, but for the most part, the game was won. It was kind of probably like a Miami and
They just kind of controlled
starting.
it. Yeah.
It's controlled
Yeah. And
by
then at the
LSU.
end,
So, like I think one of the people I was listening to put them at a three or a two,
wow.
at the two, and I was like,
I mean,
oh yeah. I mean,
you started at 9, and then you get a win like that, where if you're considering Clemson for you, you jump. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, we'll see. Time will tell. A lot of this I'm going to end with we'll see because
yeah. It's still we'll
it's
see.
just still
Yeah,
so hard to know.
yeah.
Um, UTEP, Utah State.
I haven't
Utah
watched
State
that one.
won. I didn't watch that one, but Utah State won, but only by 12.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm just like, ooh. I feel like
I
they're
don't have much to say.
mid-table. Yeah, probably
Yeah,
a bit of the ta middle table because UTEP probably was like, yes, and then Utah State was like, oh no,
yeah,
the way to pull it out. But I didn't
yeah,
watch the game at all, but it just feels like, I don't know if Utah State's one to gamble on if they come back up and ESPN pick them again. I don't know.
yeah.
See who they're
I know
playing.
Bronco can get his teams motivated and get like. So I'd buy a little stock with Bronco, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Uh, again, Northwestern Tulane, Jake Retzloff
He did a
had a
great
big
job.
run there, and
Yeah.
this is the thing with the Big Ten and SEC. You got Northwestern, who's a Big Ten school, went and got crushed basically. I mean, it wasn't 60 to nothing, but 23 to 3. You only manage a field goal.
Like
So,
it was like I watched some of that game. They got destroyed. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
And this is where like you're going to get Ohio State, Michigan, all them they're going to play the Marylands and the Northwesterns and the whatever. So they pad their wins by having all these bottom dwellers. Um, and I'm not saying they're not good teams, but when you pad it like that instead of the ACC and Big 12 that maybe have some parity in them, um, and then people just look at the win loss column and it's like, oh, well, you only had one loss. It's like, yeah, but who did you play? You played Northwestern and
Right.
creamed them. You played Maryland. You played Rutgers. Like, what
Yeah.
are you doing? So, anyway, there's my Big Ten rant. Uh,
It's worthy. And
yeah,
it's not much different from most people. I mean, it's really what's hard about SEC. Well, I'll say this mostly about the Big Ten. It's just so top heavy.
yeah.
Not top heavy, bottom heavy, actually, I would say. Like
Could be. Yeah, that's
in the
another way
sense
to
of
put
like
it.
there's a lot of mediocre to non-mediocre teams, and then you have like these two at the top that can make a national run. And that's what makes it
Yeah,
so frustrating to be like, and that conference is getting how much money? Like, come on, man.
yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway, it is what it is. So yeah, good job, Tulane.
Mhm.
Virginia Tech, South Carolina. looks like it was a good game. South Carolina won, I think, pretty decent there, and I think we both
Well,
expected that.
the first half, though, it was pretty tight, and it was tighter for my liking on that because I was just like, oh, because so I confirmed that like I can't remember his first name, but the Boomer Ball from Georgia Tech, his son, also Boomer, is now the coach Boomer of
Wait, Beamer ball or
Beamer, sorry,
Boomer
Boomer. Yeah,
from
sorry, I'm
Virginia
thinking
Tech? Yeah.
thinking of Oklahoma. Anyway, but yeah, so Beamerville, yeah. So his son is at South Carolina. So that's why it was such a big game for Virginia Tech to want to do well because it was kind of
Mm,
like this recollection nostalgic ball.
gotcha. Yeah.
But and so I felt like Virginia Tech showed up more so than I thought they would. South Carolina's second half, I think, did a really good job, and I still think they're one to watch, but maybe not as high on my list as I would. I think LSU is higher, in my opinion, of one to watch.
Mm,
So yeah,
yeah. Well, they'll move up about 6 spots because it's the SEC.
I don't know.
Then let's see, we got two more. Hawaii, Arizona. Looks like I didn't watch it, but it was late. Arizona killed them, which makes me think Hawaii beat Stanford. Stanford's going to play BYU, and Hawaii just got hammered by Arizona. Not that BYU and Arizona played yet, but like makes me think like I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But BYU should win that game. But way to go, Arizona.
Yeah. I picked the upset on this one, and I
Oh,
was
you did. Oh,
myself
it was
pretty
my
quickly
10.
by
It was
a
my
lot.
10. Arizona was my 10 to win.
Well,
So,
that was most people said it was my 10 originally too, and then I was just like, I'm gonna just throw some wrenches in there. I think for me that ever since I've won several times in the last several years, I've been like playing around with a lot more like risky strategies, mostly because I want to see my younger siblings and my dad and my
yeah,
mom do
the
well.
other people win.
Well, and to that, not to say that if I didn't turn it up, they couldn't, but yeah, they did a good job this week. But I also thought that Hawaii might have had a shot because I think what we don't know about that is how good that. I mean, does that how good is Arizona? And all these teams. I mean, what does
Yeah,
that really mean? I don't know, but we'll have to see.
you're right. And this is a good one because Hawaii had a win against Stanford. And it's like, okay, we don't expect Stanford to be good, but Hawaii did beat them.
Hmm.
And they had, that first week to warm up, and then they go and get blown out. And it's like, this is a good definition of we don't like, we'll
Like it
see.
doesn't tell
We
us
don't know. Yeah, the
information that we
first
can
week
use. Yeah.
First week really doesn't know. You don't really know.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then the last one, we say to last, Texas, Ohio State. I watched a good amount of this game, and I mean, overall, it's a good game. I remember someone was saying like instant classic, and I wouldn't call it an instant classic. It was like 14-7. It was fine.
It's just a
Arch
defensive blowout.
had a moment at the end, but yeah, he couldn't get going, and I think he'll be fine. Like that's
Yeah,
your
he'll
first
recover.
big game as a starter at Ohio State. And Texas' defense was good. I mean, they did hold Ohio State 14 points.
Mm.
Like, so they have a good defense. It's just they need to get that offense going, get Arch some throws there, which I don't think he did horrible. He did have some interceptions and but it wasn't like egregious. I
I
think
think
it's
that
just
could, it's good that he was surrounded by other good people. I mean, that's kind of what they said about a couple of teams that were playing. I was listening to different podcasts and they were just like, it's nice when you're surrounded by really good players so that your
yeah.
first, I think they said about the Notre Dame quarterback, because there was a lot of, what was interesting is there was a lot of new starting quarterbacks and most of those teams like there a lot of those teams were in these like top 10 playoff games and you're like
Hmm.
wow, as you're starting, I mean, that's just so much pressure. I mean, there is a lot to be said for kind of like, how BYU went out and just slaughtered this other team. I mean, it's like it's real-time practice, really. It's kind of
Yeah.
like getting prepped for the real season. And it's hard because there's an ego, egos can be fragile with all of those big losses
Hmm.
early on, especially with so many eyes on them and so much pressure. So I think Notre Dame will recover. I actually think
Or Texas.
RT Manning will recover. I think
Yeah.
they will. And I also think this might give Ohio State a little bit of an inflated self-confidence, but I will
Okay.
say they played well. I mean,
Yeah.
they performed really well. So,
Definitely good. I agree with you. I think Arch will recover. I bet you if you would have asked Steve Sarkisian closer to the season, maybe in confidence, would you rather start a game with an FCS opponent or Ohio State? He'd take FCS with a new quarterback. I know Arch has been
Yeah,
there; he's played a couple, but it's like let's start the season
at least
a
one
little
or so.
slower, which I
Yeah.
think BYU like again had a true freshman. Yeah, let give us the FCS bad team so we can kind of get rolling and then
Yeah,
go.
like just practice them as much as possible and run those different offensive plays, you know? So,
The other thing I thought is a lot of time, well, not a lot. Well, but let me preface this first. Like a lot of times, there's people who flop in the NFL, and good players, bad players,
and they might
it,
have
it
even
doesn't
done really
matter.
well in college.
But I think the thing that gets overblown a lot of times is like someone you'll have a quarterback who goes to an Ohio State or goes to Alabama or whatever, and they do amazing, and then they get to the pros and they can't do it. Like it's not meant for them, which, it could be a different skill set. But I think part of it is you were saying you're surrounded by all these other good players.
Right.
So now, not only did you have the best recruiting class, the best money, involved, and like you're a great player, but so you did great in college, but then you go to the pros where everyone's good, and it's like, oh, this is
More
different.
parity, less
There's a
spotlight
lot
on
more
me.
parity. Yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
you're not just blowing people away because it's like, hey, we got all the good players. So I think that's a danger a lot of times with that draft is like they're drafting all the quarterbacks or wide receivers. It's like, yeah, but your line gave you 6 seconds to throw every time, and now you don't have that or something. So
Well, and
it's tough.
I was even thinking about this with Carson Beck because, he came back because he wanted to up his draft stock. But I kept thinking, okay, so you might get more money with a higher draft stock, but you get a worse team. So,
Yeah, that's
or,
true.
so I've just been like going back and forth in my mind on what obviously is more important. And, I don't know the NFL system well enough to know what in the longer term situation is a good, better deal for you. But because I'm sure if you do well enough or whatever else, you'll find your way to the right paycheck. But like I've been thinking about this a lot too, to be like, would you really want to go first in the draft other than having bragging rights? Because then you get stuck with the team and then you have to pull it out of the gutter as right out of college.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot to be said for like kind of, the second round draft picks,
Yeah.
and being able to be on a decent team and be able to pull it out to some extent.
Yeah, be the fifth quarterback selected, and then you go sit behind a vet for a year or two
And then like pick up the
and
system
something, then pick
and
it
then
up.
take
Yeah.
over. Yeah, I think that's anyway.
Anyway, but yeah,
Oh,
it was an entertaining week. Glad college football's back. We'll
yeah, and I
see.
think I mean it goes to show. I think the highest in our division, our family playing was probably in the 40s, right? I know I was in
Yeah,
the 30s because
it
I picked
was
a lot of non-upsets.
it was actually
Or upset.
David and Otto got 44. I got 43, and Dad got 43, and then it goes down from there. Yeah,
Yeah,
Sterling, my 3-year-old brought up last place, so he
and thank heavens for that because I was scratching the bottom there for a second. But yeah, we have a couple of the kids play and they're younger, and so it makes it easier when we have a bad week. And when you have a
yeah,
bad week on the first week, it looks bad. But I kept saying to myself, it's only 8 points away from, the
that's
top
true.
at this point. So
Yep,
it could all wash out in the rain.
we got
But
a
but yeah,
lot more left.
a lot
Yep.
more left. Awesome. Well, I'll talk to
All
you
right.
later on next week when they come
All
out.
right. Good job.